right, anyone need another minute? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today and welcome to Seymour Park, a central location in our community where we can gather together and have this beautiful backdrop for the updates that we're going to share with you today about the work of the Office of Violence Prevention. My name is Andrea Crescent and I am the Operations and Data Officer with the Office of Violence Prevention. And I'm excited to introduce the mayor, who is going to have a number of important updates for you all related to the work of the Office of Violence Prevention and some of the progress that we've made over the last few months in terms of our work. After that, we'll also hear from Chief Davis as well as from Jerry Overstreet, the Director of the Office of Violence Prevention. I just wanted to share that we've been working hard to build an understanding of the opportunities that exist in our community to build community safety together. We are meeting with community members, we're meeting with community organizations in order to understand areas of opportunity within our community for the Office of Violence Prevention, and we're really excited to share some of those updates with you today. So with that in mind, I'd like to introduce you to Mayor Genrich, who is going to share some of the key updates with you all now about the Office of Violence Prevention and our work. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for the introduction, Andrea, and thanks to members of the media for gathering here with us. I want to recognize Alder Bill Morgan, who has joined us, former member of law enforcement himself, so knows a great deal about some of these issues. Appreciate his support for this initiative. So we're here to provide, as Andrea said, some important updates with regard to the Office of Violence Prevention. As some of you probably know, the OVP was launched last year to find solutions to community violence by addressing the factors which have the potential to undermine safety in our city's neighborhoods. We believe that the addition of the OVP represents a significant step in the continual process of building social connection and stability, and we're excited to share some of the progress that's been made since we last updated the community. To that end, we're pleased to announce Green Bay's first ever community safety plan, authored by Jerry Overstreet and Andrea Crescent, but importantly, informed by community input and evidence-based best practices. It lays out a holistic public health approach to violence prevention, focused on providing support for community members when needed and preventing cycles of violence from spinning out of control. Through this plan, you'll be introduced to our OVP team and the violence interrupters who have joined the effort and stand behind me. You'll also see outlined the OVP's top priorities for engaging in the community this year and in the years to come. This plan is meant to be one that identifies roles for all community members to play. Opportunities for partnership are numerous, and I encourage you to reach out to my office or the OVP directly if you see a place for you or your organization to work toward these goals. Again, thanks so much to the members of the media for joining us today. Now I'd like to invite Chief Chris Davis to share a few words about how the OVP can work cooperatively with GBPD to enhance community safety. And I hope you enjoy our musical accompaniment as well.
Yeah, I got some theme music that plays in the background there. Thanks, Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. And I'm really happy to be here today as well to highlight the opportunities that having an Office of Violence Prevention in the city of Green Bay brings to our community. No one thing works to address a problem as complex as community violence. And when Green Bay saw an increase in gun violence along with much of the rest of the country a few years ago, we knew that multiple strategies would be needed to get us headed in the right direction. As police, obviously, we have an important role to play in reducing violence, but a safe community is a shared responsibility. And there's a role in that responsibility for everyone in the community. We're excited to be part of such an innovative approach to reducing the impact of violence in Green Bay. I've long been a supporter of the OVP approach, in large part because I've seen it work in the real world in another community. And this approach doesn't mean that we stop holding people accountable when they choose to engage in violence, but at the same time, it's critical for us to create pathways away from violence and towards community safety and stability. Our violence prevention strategy includes not only focusing on violence itself, but addressing the root causes and the related issues in the community. For example, we know right now that some of the same people involved in our recent increase in auto theft are also people who are at higher risk of being involved either as a victim or a perpetrator in violence in our city. So to address this, we've partnered with local auto dealerships to provide upgraded anti-theft software for cars, and we've given out, with a generous donation from the Brown County Crime Prevention Funding Board, over 100 steering wheel locks to prevent crime. This is an example of a project that didn't require anybody to get arrested or to go to jail or get charged with a crime, and it was able to help empower our community to solve a community safety problem. And OVP is an approach in a similar spirit. And you know, of course, we'll always do everything that we can within the law and our own limitations to hold people accountable when they choose to commit a violent crime, but we're all better off if we can prevent that from happening in the first place. And so I think the community safety plan that you're going to hear about this afternoon is a big step in the right direction in terms of addressing those root causes of violent crime. It's a community-centered, holistic approach that holds real promise for helping us all to deliver on our commitment to make Green Bay the safest city in America. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Overstreet to talk about the plan.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. My name is Jerry Overstreet. I'm the director of the OVP. It's hard to believe I've been in this role for 8 months and time flies. During those 8 months, we've had a lot of conversations internally and externally trying to focus on the public health approach to address violence in this community. We want to continue to have those conversations as we know the summer is here. It's a beautiful day today. As our community members will be more active in the community, we're also going to be more active in the community. You will see our violence interrupters out on the streets, hanging out at events, in the parks, maybe at the farmers market. We want to get out here and have additional conversations because we can't have a community plan without public input. There's no way we can do that unless we have a collaborative effort and sit back and do some active listening, so then we can improve on the community safety plan that we have presented to you right now as of today. And when we started talking about some deep conversations, I've been working closely with the police department and the chief and his team. Our gun violence reduction strategy is at the forefront of what we're really trying to accomplish to reduce gun violence within the community. An essential part of that is our violence interrupters. We recently hired 2 violence interrupters. I'm going to introduce them to my left, Ms. Jackson and Mr. Wilson. They're going to be an integral part of what we're trying to do because they will be in the community having those conversations to hopefully prevent things from escalating, but more importantly, we're preventing that retaliation from occurring. They are trusted members within our community, have established themselves here in Green Bay, and with their support, our gun violence reduction strategy can be fully implemented. We recently just had additional interviews yesterday. We'll be adding 2 violence interrupters to our staff, so then ultimately we'll have a bigger team that can get out here and have those conversations within our neighborhoods. As we move forward this summer, we want to continue our collaboration with those who want to collaborate with us and have an opportunity to review the community safety plan. Your feedback is essential for us to make sure we're providing the best effort to make sure all the residents are here and safe in the city of Green Bay. And I look forward to talking to you on an individual basis, a group basis. You have access and have our contact information in the CSP plan. Just let us know when we want to talk and we'll be here to listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Street, and thank you to our other speakers today. I wanted to share that copies of the Community Safety Plan are available to you if you did not receive one already. We'd be happy to provide that. And if you're looking for a little bit more information about our violence interrupters and their role in our community, you can take a look at the Facebook page for the City of Green Bay's Community and Economic Development Department, where we've shared some information rolling out the violence interrupter program with you in that space as well. I wanted to make sure to close with a final thought that we are looking forward to building a safe and connected community alongside our community members and the organizations who serve them. And we are so excited to be launching today's community safety plan, and we're happy to hear any questions that you all might have for us. So thank you for coming today, and I can open up for questions questions. I did also want to mention that the mayor, the chief, and street will be available for individual interviews after the questions if you would be interested. So were there any questions today?
You sort of talk about what a day in the life of a violence interrupter entails.
I can surely do that. As we say, based on needs of the community and what's going on, for example, we're in Seymour Park, and if it was brought to our attention that, hey, we had a group at Seymour Park, might have been, you know, a little iffy, we'd want to come out and support that effort and kind of ask them, hey, what can we do to help you be more safe in the community as well? And it just depends on the needs of the community. In the perfect world, hopefully we won't have to use the violence interrupters, but we really want them to be on the streets and keep an ear to what's really going on in the communities. Okay. Yeah, for us right now, based on our MCW grant, our VIs are only hired for 25 hours. So I've got them spread out throughout the day so they can work, you know, a couple of hours here or there, but once again, it's based on need. So if we have a crisis situation and we want to go out and do some outreach with the individuals involved, that's what we'll do. Yeah. No, they're not. As you can see, we've got some OVP gear. These are individuals from the community. They are not police officers, they're not detectives. They are individuals that want to help us save lives and change lives. Those are the people that are invested in the community, and that's who we're looking for to continue to be our VIs. Yes.
Jerry, can you talk about this as a public health matter?
Well, on the public health side, I'm going to talk a little bit, but I'm going to let my expert come in on that as well. For me, it's just shifting the mindsets away from stereotypical thoughts about what it is. Violence is an epidemic. That's the way I look at it. This is something collectively we can all prevent. We can't rely on PD to do it all by themselves. We have to be more preventative ourselves and be in front of it. That's the role of the violence interrupters, to help us deal with situations within the community because they live in the community. And they're trusted individuals that people might say, hey, I'm willing to have a conversation with Mr. Overstreet or violence interrupter to see if we can prevent things from escalating. But I'll let Andrea kind of give you more in depth about the public health approach.
So thanks for that question. You know, I do have a public health background. I don't know that I would necessarily add anything significant beyond what Street had said. It's really about looking at the root causes of violence in the community, what might lead to violence, and really focus on prevention and early intervention so that we are getting out in front of violence and acts of retaliation in our community. And so that's making sure that our community is connected, our community is stable and has the resources that they need, and they feel like violence doesn't have to be the pathway that they go down. It's about, I believe the chief said, it's about creating other pathways and building pathways towards stability and connection in our community. So that's really what we mean when we talk about a public health approach.
Chief, you said you've seen this work in other communities. I know it's kind of just kicking things off here in WBAY. Talk about that experience and sort of, I guess, your hope and maybe timeline to see change here in WBAY.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the change that we're looking for is to have a more holistic approach to what is, in reality, a very complex problem. That, yes, there is a place for policing in it, and also, at the same time, that you can get a lot of value out of somebody, that trusted person that can go out into the community and stop something from happening before it starts. And I can think of one event that I was at, and, you know, I come from Portland, Oregon, and I can think of a pretty large kind of underground art festival that they had in North Portland back in the mid-2010s, where we had two groups of people that came together that there was going to be gunfire between these two groups, and I watched in real time. We called the violence interrupters, and they knew people. They had relationships among these groups that are just not possible to have all the time for police officers, and they were able, and I watched it happen in front of me, they were able to de-escalate that situation, and everybody went their separate ways and nobody got hurt. So there is real value, and if you look at cities that have gotten this approach right, it pays huge returns on that investment.
How close is the relationship, and maybe you're all asking this question, how close is the relationship between OVP and your department?
It's close, but we have to remember our roles. We're not going to ask OVP to provide us with intelligence information or anything like that, because they have to be genuinely trusted partners in the community. We share a lot of information back and forth, and what that relationship already looks like is when we have a violence incident, We'll meet with them regularly, tell them what we can. Obviously, there are things that we can't share to not compromise an investigation, but we'll talk about the people involved and the people a lot of times on the periphery of that event that they might be able to go reach out to from their perspective and make a difference for.
How do you get them to the two sides to sort of buy in to dealing with the violence interrupters?
I guess which two sides?
Well, you reminded me of these two groups.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, bad actors, I don't know, the violent offenders. How do
Well,
you get them?
you know, obviously it's a special set of skills that someone needs to have to be successful at mediating a dispute between two groups of people that's heated enough that it can result in violence. And I think that's, you know, what I've seen is where people are successful at doing that is where they're able to have relationships with the individuals in those groups and that sense of trust. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a participant in that situation, but it's absolutely critical that that violence interrupter be somebody who has the trust of those community members.
Are there any statistics you can share of how this is working in other cities and how it's brought violent crime down?
I apologize. Obviously, I'm not going to have specific statistics, but I can tell you, this approach worked really well for a long time in Portland. Some things just changed there, and that's a different city, and some things changed around 2020 there. But they've also seen it pay off really well in Oakland in the past. I believe Boston had a program called Cure Violence that a lot of these programs are based on that was really successful. And we also know from our technical assistance folks that we're working with that there are efforts like this underway in a lot of cities right now.
Do you have a timeline for when you hope to see changes to the number of violent crimes here in Green Bay decrease based off of using this program?
Well, I'd like to see it go down now. And I think, and it is, and I think this plan really represents the next step in that, again, holistic strategy that's going to try to not only bring numbers of violent incidents down, but in the future prevent them from happening at all, which is where we'll all be better off.
Were there any additional questions today?
Can we talk to the violence interrupters?
We would love to just have you sort of be able to engage with them in a different space. I would say Street is more than willing to answer any questions that you might have about that program and their role.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Can we grab you for a soundbite, Mr. Mayor?